Hello YouTube, I'm Asani Smith and you're watching Brothers Who Code. And this is episode 2 of the HTML CSS course. And last time you saw me, we did some basic HTML code, just some text and some simple CSS. But this time around I want to take a step back and show you what we're actually using to do our programming. And that's called a text editor. Now, essentially what a text editor is something you can use to make and change coding and programming files. And if you watch the first episode of the HTML CSS course, you would already seen that I told you to install Visual Studio Code, which is a basic text editor and the one that I recommend for most of you to download if you're on Windows or Mac or Linux. Now, this is not the only text editor that's out there. There are multiple text editors that you can use to program. For example, there's a text editor called Atom. There's a bunch of people who use that one. There's other ones out there too, but those are the two main ones that I usually recommend for you to download. And once you download one of these, then you can start programming in the basic things. Now there is a bunch of more things you can do with a text editor, and here I open up, this is Visual Studio Code, very basic text editor, and there's tons of features you can do here that can make your coding experience a lot more better. So instantly, once you get Visual Studio Code, there's going to be this little pop-up here, and for most text editors there will be this little sidebar here of a bunch of things. Now, I only know two, which is Visual Studio and Atom, but I'm pretty sure all text editors are like this. And so no matter where you are at or which text editor you have, whether you have Visual Studio, Atom, or some other one, you should be able to follow along with some of these basic things that you can do with the text editor. But I mainly recommend that you get Visual Studio Code because that is the best one, and it works and is compatible for every computer software. So the first feature is search. Now this is a pretty basic one. Search just basically allows you to search for text in your files of your programming things. Let's say you have an H1 somewhere and you can search for it, and I'll actually show you an example of it a little bit later on in the video once I actually open up the project that we're working on. Now over here, this is called source control. Now, you really don't need this if you understand what folders are and documents, which is pretty much necessary to be a programmer. So this is something that you don't really have to interact with very much, but on very occasional cases you will have to use this source control, but this is something you don't have to really worry about right now. This is run debug, also something that's not really important for the basics, but something else that can help you is something called extensions. And as far as I'm concerned, only Atom and Visual Studio Code have extensions, so if you don't have this, you can skip a little bit ahead. But these are not necessary, but they're very much something that you can use, and it will make your coding experience a whole lot better. What extensions essentially are basically little things coded into Visual Studio Code by other developers that allow you to do things normally you can't do in Visual Studio Code. Like, let's say I was actually using extensions and talking about it in the first HTML episode. One of the extensions that I used is actually called down here, just let me look for it. This one, the HTML CSS Support extension. I recommend anyone who's following along with this course to install this extension right here. What it will essentially allow you to do is whenever you create a tag, it'll create a closing for it. Whenever you're trying to create a tag in general, just any type of tag, it'll pop up automatically and you can just press it and it creates it, and it tells you what it does. It's very helpful to use, and extensions just make your entire life easier. Like, and this one right here is another extension that you can install called HTML Boilerplate. It automatically creates the HTML boilerplate, the beginning of the HTML folder for HTML file, and it essentially just allows you to create it by itself, basically. All you have to type in is HTML, and then you can just create this file instantly with the extensions. Extensions are very, very useful, and once you get extensions, you can make your life a whole lot easier. It makes just everything, the entire coding process easier, so less time consuming, and it makes it a lot more fun. So that's basically it for extensions. I will recommend some extensions to install in the description down below. Just look there and I'll give you some basic extensions to install. This next one here is Remote Explorer. It's not really something that important. Once again, it's a pretty, advanced thing that you'll learn later on. But just know it's there. Like this one here too, Platform.io. It's nothing you'll be using that much. And that's basically it for like these complicated ones. Let me just get them all out the way and just explain to you. This one, GitLens, this one, To-Dos, and this one, Thunder Client. You will not need these for now. Like maybe in the future, if you're learning more advanced things, you will need some of these and they will help out in the future, but you really don't need to know much about them. The next one here is one that you should already be familiar with. It's called Explorer, and this is essentially where we open up our folder, and this is where the folder is. So I'm gonna go open up the HTML CSS course here that I created last time, and I'll wait for it to load, and then it'll show you as it's loading here. You can see that they are in this Explorer folder. So this is the little pop-up here, and it contains your entire files and project, and it allows you to maneuver through them and edit through them. This is the one you'll probably have open for the majority of your time coding. So this is the best one to have open, and it just allows you to open. You can create files, create folders. You can refresh this entire document, and you can also just collapse the folders, which is how you can neatly organize it. And another thing here is called bookmarks. This is also one that's not really useful right now, and also this is for an extension that I installed, so you should just probably not notice this. This is not really that important. And also, if you're wondering, you do not have to create an account for Visual Studio Code. You can, and it will be fine. That doesn't really change anything, but you don't have to really create an account to use Visual Studio Code. That's just something extra. And then there's this manage right here, which is in the settings file. All the base settings for Visual Studio Code are basically fine. You may notice that your Visual Studio Code text looks a little bit different, or a little bit of things look a little bit different. That's because I installed some extra extensions, and I also went to the manage and changed a few things there. But all your base settings are fine. You don't need that. That's a little bit extra things. Those are just the basic here of the sidebar for the text editor Visual Studio Code. Now up here are this top bar here. This is a little bit more important than the sidebar here. This is controlling a little bit more extra things here. So the first one here is File. Now if you click on this, there's a lot here to unpack, just a whole lot here, but you don't need to know necessarily all this. There's a few key things that I'll point out that you need to know in each of these. So first one here is File, and the ones that I want to point out for you to use are New Window, Open File, Open Folder, Open Recent, Save, Save As, and that's it. That's all you really need to know, and all of them have shortcuts. So the first one here, New Window, what it essentially allows you to do is open up another Visual Studio Code on the side of your original one. It just allows you to create another window of Visual Studio Code. Let's say you had two projects, you want to work on another one, you can open up another one over there. The next one here is Open File. It just opens up one of the files over here. So you can just open up another HTML, CSS, or another file in general. The next one here, Open Folder. It just allows you to open another folder. So here, the folder here that we have is the HTML, CSS. It's just our project. We can open up another one, and it just opens up another folder. There's open recent, which just opens up a recent folder, and that's about it. So it's pretty basic. Over here in File, you want to open things. That's basically how you do it. It's really basic, pretty easy, and yeah, that's basically how you do it. And you can also use the shortcuts like Control-O and all that, Control-S and all that. Next one here is Edit. Edit allows you to do a few things here. There's undo, redo, copy, paste, and cut. There's also find and replace, but I don't need to do those right now. These are not really, ones you want to find out right now. Paste is Control-V, and copy is Control-C. These are the two most important ones. And I can actually show you an example here. Let's say you wanted to take this H1 and make another one. You would just come here and press Control and C, and then press Control-V, and it creates another. That's basically how you copy and paste things. Pretty basic, pretty cool process, and it allows you to really save time. So it's a cool thing to know. And cut is a mixture of the two. So if you come here, press Control-X, and now that is actually pasted to your thing. So if you come here, now Control-V, Control-V, and boom, you just paste it back. Come here, Control-X, Control-V. It just automatically copies it so you can position it other places. Another way quickly you do that, that's pretty cool. And let's say you made a mistake. So let's say I accidentally typed this random text accidentally into there. Instead of just deleting it, you can just press Control-Z, and it just automatically deletes your last mistake or whatever you did. So let's say create some spaces, Control-Z, brings it back. It's pretty easy to do. And Control-Y to redo. So put that back. If that's not a mistake, then you can just put it back with Control-Y. And that's basically it for these basic functions and edit. Now selection, view, and go, run, and terminal. These terminal especially will come in later when you do other things that involve more different coding languages than HTML, CSS, maybe even some different frameworks than HTML, CSS. But for now, these are not really that important. Neither is help, because these are not really that important. You don't need them for HTML, CSS. You just need the basic ones to control the document in the way that you need to, so it saves time. As you can see, these are not really just that important. Like, these are not do or die, not the very edge that you need this. You don't need all this. These are just extra things that you can do, and it makes your life a whole lot easier, makes the coding process a whole lot faster. You can get through this, speed through this faster with these shortcuts. And I just wanted to take this time to let you guys know about these features. There are other ones down here. These are just the extensions I have installed. If you have any questions about any of these extra ones, you can let me know down in the comments. And if you want to know which is the best text editor or other questions you may have, you can always comment it, and I'll reply to that comment. Make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you're new. We post coding videos every week, and I will see you later.